Hey everybody, this is Dead Winter Dead, and this is Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Borderlands is a first-person shooter video game. It was developed by 2K Australia. There was some slight assistance, I was told, by Gearbox Software. It was published by 2K Games. It is the third installment in the Borderlands video game series, and the story itself kind of serves as an in-between. The original Borderlands was released in 2009. Borderlands 2 was released in 2012, and the story that takes place here is supposed to be in between those two games. It's a FPS mostly, but it does have some role-playing aspects in there. There are quests, kind of random quests, main storyline quests, character building, character traits, character skills. The big thing that the original Borderlands was built on, the big hype, was their loot system, was the fact that there was 1,000,000 guns in the game, because there was this randomly generating engine that just generated these random types of guns. And it was fun for a while. It was a little bit gimmicky, but it was a lot of fun in the original Borderlands. I had a ton of fun in the original Borderlands. Borderlands 2 just kind of seemed like more of the same. And before I get to my first impressions of this, I first want to say I'm not going to spoil any story points. The footage that you were seeing here is essentially like the first real boss fight. There's a couple of harder characters that you actually have to fight in, I guess, sort of the intro story or the tutorial story. But this is the first one. Once you get on the moon's surface, this is the first official boss fight. The boss's name is Deadlift, as you can see there, level 5 boss. And surprisingly, it took me a while to figure out how to take this guy down, because it's one of those boss fights where he just kind of zooms all over the map, and there he is right there in this large kind of spacesuit, and his main weapon is, not only is he's got a strong melee attack, but his main weapon is an energized kind of electric attack, which he uses to deplete your shields and then eventually fry you to a crisp. The one thing that's unique about the Borderlands series is it's, I guess you could call it, it's kind of edgy or kind of comedy flavor. A lot of the characters are really goofy. Some of them border on racial stereotypes. There's a lot of funny dialogue and kind of comedic moments. It never really takes itself too seriously as a shooter, as a game that tells a story, or as a role-playing game. It's just meant to be good old-fashioned video game fun, where you pick up some guns that can shoot fire, or a gun that shoots chemical bullets, or a gun that shoots lightning bolts, and you blow up bad guys of all sorts and sizes. It's really mindless fun. If you're looking for something that's intellectual or something that's going to stimulate your mind, this is not the game for you. Now, before we get on to some of my personal opinions, let me kind of just do a quick and dirty rundown of some of the review scores from some of the more well-known video game publications. Now, we all know that there are some weird things going on in the video game industry, as far as publications go, and as far as proper reviews go. That a lot of people sometimes get paid to do good reviews on things. It's the same thing with books and movies, etc., because this is a business, and the more you can sell of something, the better it is for everybody. And some people like to take a piece of that pie and just pocket it a little bit. So some of these scores may actually be legit. Some may just be somebody taking a piece of the pie. Some may be people who just have a beef with Gearbox or 2K Games. Anyway, Destructoid gave this a 6 out of 10. Game Informer a 7.5 out of 10. Games Radar 4 stars out of 5. GameSpot gave it a 7 out of 10. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. Joystick 3.5 stars out of 5. The official Xbox magazine gave it an 8 out of 10. Polygon gave it a 7 out of 10. Hardcore Gamer, this is the lowest score that I could kind of find, was a 2.5 out of 5. Escapist 4 stars out of 5. And PC Gamer 77 out of 100. So those are you know, a little bit above average scores. You know, some 7s, some couple of 8s in there. The weird one was Hardcore Gamer 2.5 out of 5, and from what I could find, their reasoning was that it was really just kind of more of the same. And I gotta be honest, it did feel like more of the same. There didn't really seem to be anything that pushed the game to the next level. There weren't really any features or any sort of game mechanics that made me go, oh wow, okay, that's new. I mean, there are a couple of new elemental attacks. Actually, not a couple. As far as I can tell, and I put a few hours into this game, really only one. I mean, you've got your typical fire, lightning, chemical, or corrosive acid attacks that you would have seen in the older games. But what you do see in this one is the ice attacks. There are a lot of low gravity environments and freeze weapons. And one of the funny things you can do with the freeze weapon is you can actually freeze an enemy character and then melee them, which kind of shatters them into these little blocks of frozen ice cube goo, I guess. The thing that is a little bit new is the fact that you are playing on a low gravity moon. So when you jump, you actually kind of linger in the air a little bit. And after the first, probably 15 minutes of gameplay, you do get an oxygen pack so that you can survive a little bit longer on the moon's surface. You do have to find these little oxygen vents in the moon to kind of recharge your O2 mask. But the interesting thing about the O2 mask is that you can actually, instead of using the oxygen to stay alive and breathe, you can give yourself a couple of extra boosts in the air so you can sort of glide through the air. Or you can make it sort of an area of effect melee attack where you jump into the air and then immediately slam to the ground, kind of knocking some of the enemies in a small radius onto their backs, and so they're a little bit easier to take out. One thing I did notice about this game that was a little bit different from the other games, I played a lot of Borderlands, and I only put about maybe 20 hours into Borderlands 2. But it seemed to, either I'm getting old and rusty, or the game got harder. It seemed a little bit harder. It took me 2 or 3 times to get past this first guy, and the way the Borderlands series kind of moves along, it gets progressively harder, and not just kind of harder. It gets harder as you go along. And I don't remember a lot of the initial bosses, the first stage bosses, or the first 1 through level 10 bosses being this difficult. But it took me a while to figure out what I had to do to kind of take this guy down. Now, there are certain tactics you can use for certain bosses. This one is essentially just kind of a duck and weave, duck and move system where you want to avoid his attacks. He has an area of effect attack where he moves up along an electrical generator, smashes it, and electrifies different levels of these floors, making them impossible for you to traverse. I mean, you can try to step on them, but you end up taking slow electrical damage, which depletes your shield and eventually kills your character. I am having a little bit of fun with this. I'm going to put some more time into it, but it does really feel like kind of more of the same, almost like an expansion pack for Borderlands 2 rather than an entirely new game. But anyway, guys, I'm going to put some more time into this, maybe post some more footage. My name's Dead Winter Dead. Thanks for watching.